Life of Try, where we talk about personal growth, one try at a time. I'm Wynne Leon, and in this episode, we're exploring a deceptively hard question. How do you know when to stop trying? Not because you're giving up on yourself, but because the pursuit is no longer healthy, no longer yours, or no longer aligned with who you're becoming. Along the way, we'll look at what happens when trying is too tightly controlled, when you can feel in your bones that it's time, when passion quietly turns into obsession. We'll draw perspective from athletes and icons like Marion Jones, Alysa Liu, Oprah Winfrey, and Agassi. And we end with a reminder that setbacks don't have to be the end of the story. This is the Life of Try. About 15 years ago, I went to a charity luncheon where Marion Jones was the guest speaker. This was after Jones was stripped of the 3 gold medals and 2 bronze medals she won at the 2000 Summer Olympics in the track and field events. And she spent 6 months in prison for lying to authorities about taking performance-enhancing drugs. My niece was 12 years old at the time. When I told her about the luncheon and Jones's talk, my niece astutely asked, "Why would you want to listen to someone who spent time in prison?" I can't remember exactly how I answered, but I think people who have tried and gone too far in the effort have a lot to teach us about when it's best to stop trying. That is to say, when we need to give up a particular pursuit because it isn't healthy, doesn't have heart, or no longer serves us. Knowing when to try seems very subjective. I mean, in most cases, when we aren't breaking the law. And it's a personal judgment call. Even so, I went looking for some stories and perspective about when to stop. Here's what I found. In the first category, stopping because trying is too tightly controlled. Alysa Liu shone bright at the 2026 Winter Olympics, winning 2 gold medals. Her joy and zest for life were palpable and inspiring. But so was her story, because she'd figured out how to skate on her own terms. Liu retired from skating when she was 16. As Gabe Fernandez wrote in the San Francisco Chronicle, for most of her life, Liu's father, Arthur, and her coaches were in control of every minute detail of her daily routine. The result was that after 11 years of skating, Liu experienced what her father described as PTSD from skating. So she quit. And then when she returned 2 years later, she did it on the condition that she would do it on her own terms, specifically without her dad's input. No doubt that was a tough conversation, but it set her up to try in this recent Olympics on her own terms. As Jordan Mendoza wrote in USA Today, it took stepping away from the sport itself for Liu to find her true self. She did, and when she decided she wanted to skate again, brought along a newfound edge that has made this run enjoyable. In her own words, Alysa Liu explained to Cosmopolitan magazine, skating is a sport, but first and foremost, it's an art form. And in order to produce the best art and have it connect with fans, you have to know yourself. I express myself in other ways, but this is one of the more public ways fans really connect to. I had almost no autonomy when I was a kid, but I was a kid, so it makes sense. I didn't know what I wanted. It was a little bit of an irregular experience, but it was an experience that I really learned from, and I gained so much insight. I'm really glad I've been through it all. I would add that the public nature of her trying, stopping, and then joyful return is what gives us this great example of stopping, or at least pausing, in order to recenter ourselves and then define our own terms. The second category of stopping trying is when it's time, it's time. In this category, I offer up Oprah Winfrey. In 2009, she announced that she would end her talk show after 25 seasons. Her statement was, "I love this show. This show has been my life, and I love it enough to know when it's time to say goodbye." She said, 25 years feels right in my bones, and it feels right in my spirit. My dad liked to joke that he decided to retire when the clock stopped working and the stapler ran out of staples. As funny as his quip is, it points to a deep self-awareness that is cultivated when we work at it. Oprah said she prayed about her decision. My dad did as well. It's about listening to our inner voice. I have tea bags that regularly offer the quote, "Use your head to live with heart." This one is so subjective and nebulous to me. It relies on our own ability to listen deeply and trust ourselves. It speaks of faith in a higher power, or at least in the unknown. As Mark Nepo says in the Book of Awakening, we'd all like a guarantee before making a decision or taking a risk. But the irony is that taking the risk is what opens us to our fate. It's like wanting to know what things will taste like before putting them in your mouth. It just can't be figured out that way. I always seem to be relearning that real commitment comes before I know where anything is going. That's what listening to your heart is all about. Without jumping off its perch, a bird would never fly. Without jumping out of your heart's silence, love is never possible. Without asking to be whole, the divine essence waits inside everything, the way bread hardens if never bitten into. As Nepo says, there are no guarantees, but listening to your heart, when you know in your bones it's time to stop, helps guide us to the next thing that makes us come alive. Which leads to the third category I found, when obsessions become unhealthy. Canadian psychologist Robert Vallerand has a dualistic model of passion. I learned about this from Michael Ruckert's book, The Fun Habit, where he notes, Vallerand distinguishes between harmonious passions, healthy, and obsessive passions, harmful. Experiments that build on Vallerand's model show that harmonious passion, defined as a strong inclination to engage in an activity willingly and with a sense of volition, creates positive emotions and improves life satisfaction. Obsessive passions, meanwhile, are not enriching. When we stop, we feel empty. Rucker gives examples of what we might experience when pursuing obsessive passions: withdrawal, inflexibility, blindness to risk. For me, this category really speaks to my unwillingness to change. The number of things that I haven't stopped trying because they defined part of my identity are great. Even when I knew a pursuit no longer created positive emotions, I've soldiered on because I was committed. We stay longer than we should because we need to keep the job and gutted it out till retirement, or surround ourselves with friends that don't align with our values, and so on. Sometimes we know we have to stop, but for practical reasons continue on. Which brings to mind another example, Andre Agassi. He hated to play tennis. He writes about it in his 2009 biography, Open. When he went to hire Gil Reyes as his trainer, he explained that he kept playing because I'm not suited for anything else. I don't know how to do anything else. Tennis is the only thing I'm qualified for. Also, my father would have a fit if I did anything different. But later in Andre's career, he figured out how to both acknowledge that and also try to make the pursuit as healthy as possible. He wrote, "If I must play tennis, the loneliest sport, then I'm sure as hell going to surround myself with as many people as I can off the court. And each person will have a specific role. Perry will help with my disordered thoughts. JP will help with my troubled soul. Nick will help with the basics of my game. Philly will help with details, arrangements, and always have my back." And then when he retired, Andre committed himself to the foundation that spoke to his heart, a K-12 charter school for underprivileged children. Knowing when to stop trying seems to me to be a difficult practice, one that I've gotten wrong many times. Perhaps that's why Marion Jones was so intriguing to listen to at that luncheon many years ago. So I'll close this episode with some insight from Jones. In an interview with People magazine in 2025, Jones said, "There are days when I'm actually grateful for some of the, what I like to say, hiccups that have happened in my life. Because they've made me stronger, better, more balanced, and without that experience, I certainly wouldn't be where I'm at today, she said. Jones then added, I can't go back and change things, but I've come here to set an example for my kiddos. That courage is stepping out when you don't want to, with the possibility that there's going to be critics, there's going to be opinions, but you don't just disappear. Thank you for listening. Our music was written for us by the incredible duo of Jack Campora and Rob Koenig. For show notes and more great inspiration, see avitiva.com, avitiva.com.